Okay. For a double replacement reaction to occur, you have to start with two compounds, right? Which we have right here, sodium hydroxide and copper 2 chloride, which comes out with another compound and another compound that are two completely separate ones than what you started with. So, first, let me go ahead and erase these because we don't want them to already be balanced. We want to figure that out for ourselves. Alright. Now, for this, the reason we chose these two is because they're both, well, compounds. And since these are both compounds, they cannot they cannot be diatomic. But right now we want Na over here in Cu's place. We want sodium in copper's place. So we want to switch them and we want to put chlorine together. But we'd have to switch its charges. So we write down sodium's symbol and its charge, which is 1. It's a positive 1, but you wouldn't write the positive. And chlorine has a charge of -1, so you'd write -1. Well, like you would write 1. You don't write positives or negatives, you just write the number. And then you switch the charges, but since the numbers are the same, you wouldn't have to do that. It would just come out as NaCl, which is table salt. Alright? And now we got to do the same thing for copper hydroxide. Copper, since it's a Roman numeral, you would write down the Roman numeral that came in this name. Since this is copper 2 hydroxide, or copper 2 chloride, you would write 2. And then you would write the one that you want it to be with, which is OH, or hydroxide. And you write down its charge, which is actually -1. Again, you wouldn't write the negative or positive. Then you switch the charges, which you would write 1 over here in copper, for copper, and you'd write OH, and then 2 for hydroxide, which would come out as Cu, and you put parentheses, because if you write OH2, like this, that is not hydroxide anymore. That is a completely different compound. So you'd write hydroxide in parentheses and give it the subscript. So that way it puts 2 of the compound. And you wouldn't do O2H2 either, because that's also something completely different. And it's just easier to write this way. So you'd write copper hydroxide and then subscript to 2.
There you go. That one was
right?
And all the other ones like that. Yep, liquid's going.
And now we gotta balance the equation.
And then wash it out with water.
Since there is...
Somebody's doing that one.
I need candle wax.
Alright.
How do you react on the oxygen?
Fire. Oh, I'm so hyped. Come on, let's get it.
Go ahead and actually, there's no point in rewriting the equation.
Your camera angle shows,
But I will
chemicals
go ahead and use it.
pretty quickly. So
Alright.
she talked about how
So there's 1 sodium on this side and 1 sodium on this side. So we don't need to worry about that yet. But there's 1 hydroxide on this side and 2 hydroxide on this side. So go ahead and write 2 in front of the whole thing.
She's staring at me.
But now that means there's 2 sodium. So you go ahead and write 2 NaCl here. Alright, there's 1 copper and 1 copper, so you don't need to worry about that. And there's 2 chlorine and there's 1 chlorine. But we already wrote 2 there, so we don't need to worry about that. And your equation should come out something like this. Since there's now 2 sodium, 2 hydroxide, 2 hydroxide, 1 copper, and 2 chlorine on both sides.